So, let's see, we've got about 14 people, so we'll probably get some more, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with my presentation. Let's see, hopefully you can all hear me. But anyway, so the Greater Santa Fe Fireshed Coalition is let's see, get the slideshow going here. All right, so this red box here on the side, it's a dashed line. This is kind of the fireshed area. And a fireshed is just an area where if a fire burns, we expect it to not only impact that area, but the communities downstream and the ecosystems and all those things. So it'll have a wider impact than just in that area. And the reason this line is dashed is fires don't respect lines, right? They kind of go where the weather pushes them. So the coalition then is the group of people in Santa Fe that are worried about fires in this area. And you can see the list here, nonprofits like myself, the city, where Porfirio is working, the Forest Service, other nonprofits, the Nature Conservancy, Soil and Water Conservation Districts. It's a big group of people all working towards common goals. So the mission of the coalition here is to improve the health and resilience of forested watersheds, to build a better understanding of the role of fire in the forests, and then to identify and implement high priority projects. So each partner has their own project that they're working on. And so there's a bunch of goals that support that mission. And the one that Porfirio and I work on a lot is about fire adapted communities. So we know that these forests are adapted for fire. So we want our communities to be adapted for fire too. And that means all sorts of things. And one of them is being signed up for alerts. And that's what we'll talk about more today, but it includes preparing your home for wildfire, talking to your neighbors. It's a huge list of things, having your fire department ready, but we won't get into that too much today. But I'm kind of wrapping up here. So I wanted to let you know about our website. You probably went there to sign up for this, but we have all sorts of resources, science briefing papers, how to sign up for Alert Santa Fe. We just started a weekly blog post, and we've been putting together lots of great content from that. The one that went out yesterday, we interviewed the FMO, Fire Management Officer for the Espanola District, about how they're dealing with coronavirus and COVID. Lots of great content on the website. And then the last thing I want to talk about is our ambassador program. So if you're interested in helping your neighborhood or your HOA prepare for wildfire, Porfirio and I work on this program, and it's a chance for Porfirio and I to give you the resources that you need to go do whatever needs to happen in your neighborhood, whether that's, creating a neighborhood alert system or setting up a chipper day or something like that. So we can kind of work on that. And then the other great part is you can talk to other people working on the same things and see what they're doing. So our next meeting is going to be May 13th. If you go to this webpage at the bottom, santafefireshed.org/ambassador, there's more information about that. And this meeting, as you expect, is going to be here on Zoom. And I have that scheduled, but it's not quite on the website yet, but it'll be up soon. So with that, a couple little housekeeping things here. So we're recording this. So after the webinar is over, we'll share the link to the recording, and you can send that out. So we're going to keep everyone muted for the first part during Porfirio's presentation, but type questions in the chat box, and I'll keep an eye on that. And then when the presentation's over, we'll kind of answer questions from the chat box, and then there'll be a chance at the end to unmute yourself and talk to Porfirio and I, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, and so like I said, everyone will just stay on mute for a little while until we're done with that, just to minimize the side noise. And then I'm not sure how it looks on your end, but if on the top, there's some options to change your view so you can see my screen and my little video, and you can kind of change the layout of that. So play around with that. Hopefully it won't crash it on your end. So yeah, I think that's it for me. It looks like, according to the poll here, I'll let Porfirio get set up. Porfirio, if you want to share your screen. But according to the poll here, About a third of people are already signed up for Alert Santa Fe, and 2/3 are going to do it after this webinar, hopefully. Let's see.
Yeah, so thank you, Sam. Hopefully I'm unmuted and you can hear me.
Yep, you're good, Porfirio.
Excellent. All right. So this is Stay Alert. I am Porfirio Chavarria, the City of Santa Fe Fire Department. As Sam already went over, here are some of the ground rules. Be present, be kind, be respectful of each other. Please mute your mics. I recommend turning off your video until the Q&A. And then Sam will be monitoring the chat. And if you have any questions, please place them there if you have any comments. Here's kind of the agenda that I have for today. What is Alert Santa Fe? Where do I sign up? How do I register? And then we'll go over the Santa Fe Emergency Management tutorial, which you can also access later after this. And then as well as we'll be sending out the recording of this specific webinar. And then we'll go into just basically questions and answers. We'll get going here. So what is Alert Santa Fe? Alert Santa Fe is the official emergency alert and notification system for the city and the county. And basically the system is used to send alerts to the public who have an address in Santa Fe, in the city or in the county during emergencies. It's a free service, allows you to sign up online.
Porfirio, I think we lost your presentation. We can just see your notes. There you go.
Okay, sorry. I tried doing something else and it didn't work. All right, so basically, this is where when you put in your address, this is how you will receive notifications based on your address. So whatever address you add, that's what the system will play on. So let's say you live in the county, but you work in the city, or vice versa. You live in the city and you work in the county. It may be a good idea to put in an address of where you live and where you work, and you will get notifications based on those areas. The system allows emergency managers and other officials to pinpoint areas to make those notifications. So say there's an incident up off Hyde Park Road, up maybe near the Sierra del Norte Dale Ball Trailhead, and they want to isolate that area. They may send notifications just to those neighborhoods there. And so if you lived maybe in Tierra Contenta on the south side of town, you wouldn't be getting those notifications. All right, now, where do I sign up? Well, there's several sites. You can sign up at santafenm.gov, Alert Santa Fe, Santa Fe County NM.gov, Public Santa Fe RECC, alert.santafenm.gov. And when I forget all these long URL addresses, if all else fails, I go to Google and just type in Alert Santa Fe, and it will take me to find a link, and it'll take me to the city's homepage for that. This is what kind of those look like. So this is the city's Alert Santa Fe homepage. This is where Google's going to take you. If you can see my cursor here, down here at click here, that's where you would click, and it would take you to the page. Just like this is the county's Alert Santa Fe site on their Regional Emergency Communication Center. If you click on this box on the right-hand side, there's Alert Santa Fe. You can it will take you to this site here, and this is the direct link. The alert.santafenm.gov link will take you to the registration page directly, and this is where Google will also take you to the city's website first, and then bring you to this one. Now we'll talk about registration and going in further in depth with that. So this is the Alert Santa Fe registration tutorial that is on that Alert Santa Fe site, that is on the City of Santa Fe site. And you'll be able to access that here. So it is on this site here that you can see on my right-hand side. And you'll load the registration site in your browser. Doesn't matter which browser, they all work. And underneath the picture there, you click here where it says to sign up for Alert Santa Fe. This website's been updated, so this tutorial is that there's a link to this tutorial right underneath that link as well. Now, step 2, complete the required text field. This is your first name, last name, email address isn't required, but it is useful, and it is useful, I find it useful, to type in my email address as my user ID, and then create a password as you would register with anything else. A phone number is required, and the type of phone number is required as well. And then you click on create your account, and it goes to the next screen. And the next screen is you want to enter the address. Now, like I said, you probably want to enter the address. You can enter in multiple addresses, but you probably want to at least enter the address where you want to receive those notifications from or about. So for most people, I believe that's your place of work and your place of residence. Now, you may have other locations that you want to identify in there so that you could get those notifications if an incident occurs in that area, or if or to receive notifications about that would affect that location. Then you'll need to confirm your phone, and if it's a landline or a VoIP phone, some of us have those virtual landline type phones. You'll need to confirm that landline by having it call you. You press 1, and after you've pressed 1, then it'll allow you to continue to confirm that it's a legitimate phone number at that location, or the one that you've identified. And then you can sign up for notifications under the alerts. They'll ask you which emergencies you'd like to fill out. Now, you can opt in or out of any of these things. There's emergency notifications from the Regional Communication Center. That is always clicked. I don't believe you can change that one, but you can change for severe weather if you don't want to get severe weather alerts, or emergency preparedness information, law enforcement, community information. Typically, law enforcement's talking about when there's traffic disruptions, or if there's emergency situations where they are trying to lock down a community, or there's some other kind of law enforcement incident occurring. Transportation disruptions, say there's impacts to travel or roads. Utility service disruptions, special event information, or community wildfire information. Typically, I'm pushing out notifications on red flag warnings, so severe weather alerts, and red flag warnings. And I'll probably be looking at putting out prescribed burn information and any other pertinent information I feel is that you may want to address for wildfire information. Some reminders. The tool does need to be updated, so I would suggest maybe putting a reminder on your phone to go over every 6 months just to update your information on the site. The more information you create on your profile, the better first responders are able to assist you when you dial 911. Alert Santa Fe certainly is just one means of receiving alerts. Creating redundancy is key in times of disaster. Television, news, radio, social media, any other kind of traditional media or ways you get your information is certainly helpful to get that, to build in your life. Lots of times during disasters, phone lines go down, Wi-Fi goes down, other types of things. Creating plans ahead of time is certainly useful. Now, here's some things maybe to address some other questions. Add another phone. So you may want to get landlines, not going to receive text messages, but you may want to put in your mobile. So here's a quick way to do that. And you can add as many phones as you'd like. Maybe you want your work mobile, your landline, your personal cell. And it's fairly quickly to go through the process of adding your phone and saying what you want, and then it does go back over and asking where that location of the phone is. Like I said, this is all tied to addresses, so you do want to make sure you put where that phone typically is or where you'd like to receive those notifications about a situation. I know mobiles were all over the place, but That's kind of just some of the limitations of the service. And then once you've done that, you can confirm by text. It'll give you a code. You confirm that code, and then it'll have registered that phone. Now, to update your alert, you can update your alerts, and kind of here you can kind of see how this goes on the dashboard there. Edit alerts, click there, and this is where, like, if you added some phones, now you can receive text messages. And just this is where also a good point to notice that you can identify how you'd like to receive these text messages, whether it's or these messages, whether it's by text, voice, or by email. And then if you forget your password, it's a fairly painless process. You just click, I forgot my password. You can identify what you forgot, my ID or my password. If you forget both, you just type in your email address. It'll submit that to you. Or if you didn't have an email address, you can continue without email, and it will contact you through your phone. And then once it has been sent to you, then you just follow the instructions through there. Here's some important links. And so this is the login link to the Smart 911 system, to the Alert Santa Fe system. You can also get through that same registration page that I showed you earlier, and in the top right corner, instead of creating a new registration, you just sign in. And here's the forget your user ID password as well. Now, if you need more assistance, the Office of Emergency Management, this is their email address. They're certainly available to help you or to lead you in a direction to answer some of your questions. And with that, I will ask folks if they have any questions or answers. Well,
Great.
I'll provide some answers and see if you have any questions.
All right, thanks, Porfirio. So we have one question in the chat, and it's, if you only have a cell phone when you call 911, how much information does the first responder automatically have about you?
So my understanding is that it'll pop up your profile. So whatever information you've listed in your profile on that web page. And maybe I'll stop sharing my screen here, just so I can. There we go. So on the Alert Santa Fe webpage, when you go in under your profile, there's all that information that you can give. And if you, so whatever that information that you've already submitted, that's what's going to show up on that dispatcher screen.
Okay, great. And then someone else asked, is Smart 911 on my phone the same as Alert Santa Fe?
They are linked, so they are very much the same. I've noticed that the user interface is ubiquitous. It's the same thing, and it's so there's really no difference.
Okay. So that's all the questions we have in the chat. I think in a second I'll allow people to unmute themselves, and you can start your video if you want and kind of raise your hand, and Porfirio will answer your question. I was going to mention, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but we have a couple other webinars coming up. Next week will be about the home hazard assessment, so how to prepare your home for wildfire. And then in 3 weeks, on the 14th of May, we'll have one about go kits and ready, set, go. I had too many goes in the same sentence. You can find info about those on our events page. And the one thing I just noted in the chat was that I've had Alert Santa Fe for a while, and on a less serious note, it's great for the traffic disruption one if you're trying to get across town, because it'll tell you where the roads are shut down if there's an accident or something. But I guess with that, everyone should have the ability to unmute themselves if they'd like to ask a question. Yeah, so like just this morning, I got a red flag warning, which is dry and windy conditions alert from Porfirio in my email. So it's just a great way to know about those kind of somewhat routine things, as well as being signed up for the when emergencies happen.
Yeah, so hopefully people aren't opposed to this, but maybe I'll just ask, Mar, I know you've probably been signed up for this already for a while, and if there's anything that you could give guidance towards or have any thoughts on Alert Santa Fe and maybe ways that we could improve, or if there's any thoughts that you would have for anybody. Oh, I don't know if you heard me there, Mar. You're still on mute too. Mar, you're on mute.
No, Sam
oh, there you
there. Thank you.
Well, I checked
Okay.
the box that says that people
Yeah.
can unmute themselves, but maybe it's
Well, I know you want to mute me anyway, but yeah, I've been on this the Alert Santa Fe thing since probably the beginning. And that didn't make it really less confusing, honestly, to go in and do my updates. I think we've added more functionality in since it first came online, and there are a lot more types of alerts you can get. I don't have an answer for this, but I think it is kind of important to think about the 911 concept and where it's going to send that call back to. So I'm sort of sorry I did it, but I have my alerts sent to email and text. And sometimes I get overloaded because I get the traffic ones and I get the weather ones. Weather is kind of hard because you're talking about the city of Santa Fe. And sometimes the weather isn't, the warnings that come out aren't like specific to the city, and they're for a whole region. So I get those from NWS already.
Yeah, and
But
those,
thinking about how that works.
yeah, and those are so National Weather Service. Their warnings are based on their weather zones, and the city of Santa Fe happens to be in like 3 weather zones.
Right.
And so sometimes, and some of those zones are kind of big. Like Zone 102 stretches from Santa Fe out all the way to Los Alamos, and I think as far north as the Colorado border. So it's a pretty big area, and so those are just very broad general weather alerts.
Right.
And so I would keep those in mind. But typically, the way I've had them posted, if say 102 is in red flag and 103 isn't, it'll still give you that red flag notification. But that doesn't necessarily mean just because 103 isn't in red flag that they're not in high fire danger either,
Right.
because they're still their winds may not just be as strong, or the humidity might just be a little bit higher, or maybe their temperatures are slightly lower. But they probably have 2 out of the 3 criteria if one of the other zones is in red flag.
Yeah.
That if people can think about that, because red flag basically means it's hot, so temperatures have to meet a certain criteria. Winds are at a certain criteria, wind speeds, and then the humidity, how dry it is at a certain criteria. And when all 3 of those come in alignment, then they issue those red flag warnings.
Yeah, and to address that like alert overload, when you saw that screen where they all showed up, like I only get the weather ones to my email, and then I get the traffic disruption and emergency ones to a text. So you can
Right.
kind of fiddle with those settings to not over alert yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Alert burnout.
I do have a request from Porf's answer, and that is to explain the zones, because unless I missed it earlier in the webinar, the zone 1 and zone 2, where are they and how do those work?
Okay, yeah. For the let me
Here,
get to the web page, and I can probably find it. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I'll pull up the map if you want to talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So the way the weather zones work is, the National Weather Service has broken up the state in all these zones, and then they have weather stations in each one of those zones, and they take those observations every day. They also, I think, send weather balloons twice a day, one in the morning, one in the evening, to gather observations, and then they create forecasts based on those, and then send those out. And on the Albuquerque National Weather Service webpage, they have those weather zones identified, and you can go through those, and they issue forecasts typically once a day in during fire season, like starting probably here in May to June. They start issuing those weather forecasts twice a day. And as firefighter, fire operations, I get those notifications those times a day, and I go through the weather to look at them and see what those forecasts are and kind of plan my day accordingly. And then say there is a fire or there's an event happening, I get on scene. I take some observations directly on the site that I'm at, and I relay those to the Weather Service. And in about an hour or two, they come back with me with a pinpoint forecast of my area, what it's going to do in the next 24 hours. And that's kind of how these, that's how fire weather works, and the Weather Service works in tandem with firefighting resources.
Thank you.
And so I think somebody, Pam Ryan's talking, has in the chat about evacuation routes indicated in the traffic disruption. I think that those would go out in multiple parts of those things where you're signed up. So like when I send out notifications, I can click on, it's a traffic disruption, it's also an emergency alert, and it's maybe it's a wildfire related kind of event or whatever, or maybe it's a law enforcement type of event. So those notifications will go out there. Certainly evacuations, whether you're not signed up for any of the other things, if it's an emergency, like an evacuation that would call for that, you're going to get that alert no matter what you're signed up for, because you have to sign up for the emergency notifications. That is not an option that you can't sign up for. Yeah, and so I'm working with some of the folks here. So Jonathan Frenzen is on here. Someone asked about planned burnings. So we're working on getting those notifications out through planned burnings. Typically, I've been sending them through Nextdoor and through an email list I have, and on the Fireshed website, those notifications, as well as the Forest Service sends out their notifications, or whichever agency is doing the prescribed burn, whether it's the county or the BLM, sends out their own notifications through there. Working with Jonathan Frenzen, though, we want to get these on not just those general notifications, but try and get in touch with those fire managers on the day of, so that we can send those notifications out that day that, oh, hey, they said they're going to burn through May 18th through the 31st. And then come maybe May 21st, I get a call or I find out, hey, we're going to actually burn today. I send out a notification that day, hey, they're burning today. I'll probably even think about sending a notification out when, hey, they stopped ignitions. You're still going to see smoke because it's still burning internally, but they're done for the day. And you probably expect smoke in the evening because that stuff settles and heads into as it settles and goes into the valleys.
And another place to get that info is a site called NM Fire Info, which is more long range planning, where they'll say, we're going to burn sometime in the next 3 weeks, but they'll also put a contact phone number so you can call the Forest Service or the BLM and they can give you more info. But The
Yeah.
NM fire info is wildfires and prescribed fires notifications across the whole state. And it's not as refined as Alert Santa Fe, but it's just another place. And Porfirio was talking about working with Jonathan, but that's also part of the coalition is all these people are already together kind of working on things. This is just one of the things that the partners of the coalition are working on is getting these alerts out.
You know, Sam, for Villages of Santa Fe, which we participate with the fire shed quite heavily, one of the things I really want to emphasize is that you can put information into Alert Santa Fe if you have any disabilities, if you need oxygen, if you have a walker or you're disabled or there's somebody in your house that's disabled. So if you have to call 911, they already have that information. So it's really critical and could be really, really critical in not only just a single incident, but if we had an evacuation, it's really important for people to know. You know, you can put your pets in so that if there is an issue and you're home alone and have to be taken to the hospital, you know, there is notification that you have a pet in the house that needs to be taken care of.
For sure. I think you can even put like where your gas shutoff is on your house and all sorts of things in there.
Yeah. So, Sam, it looks like we're at 11 past 11:30. I'm certainly willing to stay on if folks have other questions or anything, but I think we're kind of and want to be respectful of people's time as well. It's what they were expecting.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Yeah, and I think we'll have further webinars. I don't know, Sam, if you want to speak to those.
Stand by. Yes, we'll have 2 more webinars coming up in the near future. And if you go to our webpage, so I need to add the next one, but the next one coming up next week is the home ignition zone. See, maybe you can see this now. And I'll be doing that one, talking about how to prepare your home for wildfire. And then on May 14th, I'll get this added this afternoon. Or actually, it's going to go out tomorrow. But anyway, there's one on May 14th about, Ann Church is on this one, is going to be talking about making a go kit. And then Rimming Gillum, who's the wildfire coordinator for the county, will be talking about Ready, Set, Go, which is the all-inclusive plan about how to prepare for wildfire evacuations and preparing your home and all of those things. So those are the next 2 webinars that we have coming up. And then, like I said, we're putting out these weekly blog posts. So if you're not already signed up for that, think about signing up for those, and we'll announce all of those things in there too as they come up.
Yeah, and there's a couple more questions in the chat that I wanted to highlight.
Sure.
Pam Ryan is asking if anybody lives in the Overlook area. You could probably message her. And then the other one is Mary is asking about if I see anything different, better or worse for this fire season. You know, the COVID-19 is somewhat right now delaying response times just because lots of firefighters right now are working remotely or are making adjustments to maintain physical distance guidelines, as well as getting on scene and trying to continue to maintain those physical distance guidelines and while fighting a wildfire. So things are a little bit different that way. As far as the forecasted weather conditions and events, it's shaping up to be a normal fire season, which typically that means, in June, it's going to get hot and dry. We're going to get some dry lightning before we get monsoon season. Monsoon season seems to be on track for that first week in July. And we'll probably, since June is going to be hot and dry and with some dry lightning, we'll probably get 1 or 2 large wildfires, I would imagine, on the Santa Fe National Forest. Probably 1 on each side, 1 on the Pecos side, 1 on the kind of on the Jemez side. And a large fire is classified as something over 100 acres. And typically over the few years, usually those fires are anywhere from more like 2,000 acres to something more extreme like Las Conchas, which was like 150,000 plus. So that's kind of the forecast that we've been getting ready for. And
Yeah,
Sam has put in the chat the outlook for 2020.
there's a webinar next week that's about the whole Southwest, so New Mexico and Arizona, by the Southwest Fire Science Consortium, talking about the outlook. And then in the blog from last week, we had an interview with the local fire management officer for the Forest Service, kind of talking about how firefighters are adapting to COVID, and there'll be the regional fire managers or the Forest Service on this webinar next week, talking about the Forest Service and COVID, which similar, the agencies are all kind of working together and have a similar response. But yeah, good question.
Well, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. I think we had quite a few people, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see you next week at the next webinar.
Thank you, guys. Nice job.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Borf.
You're welcome.
Thank you.